Hey everyone, Lance here, and recently Sega sent us a review copy of the newly released G-Loc arcade game for the Sega Ages Line on the Nintendo Switch. G-Loc, when I was younger, I always thought it had to do with something G-Force and target lock related, but apparently it's an actual aviation term, which means G-Force induced loss of consciousness, and it's actually right there on the title screen, so that's kind of my bad. This is actually a direct port of the arcade game and not of any of the home ports previously released, so this is something new that we've never really gotten before. Ported by M2, who has previously developed, I think, all of the Sega Ages games so far on the Nintendo Switch, G-Loc is considered a spiritual successor to the Afterburner series, and like Afterburner, you have fighter jets, missiles, Vulcan machine guns, and unfortunately no jamming tunes like Afterburner, so that is a little bit of a downer. The music in the game is relegated to ditties in the beginning of each level. G-Loc originally used the wideboard variation of Sega's Super Scalar arcade hardware. It does play a lot like Afterburner, but unlike Afterburner though, the game has a large time aspect to it, in that where in Afterburner you would go through every levels and just shoot down ships, this one is timed and you have to shoot a specific number of enemies to progress in each level. Another change is that you are playing through a cockpit view most of the game. Occasionally it does take a step back to your tail when you have a fighter on you or there's a missile lock. So, but primarily the game is played in the first person view. I do gotta say that the lock-on mechanism in this game is a little slower than I'm used to, but there is an option in the main menu to actually speed that up. In this game, you do get the chance to actually land your plane on a carrier, which is a different aspect to the game that we didn't have in Afterburner. It was always done automatically in that game. In this one, it does allow you to actually control the landing, so it is a nice feature to include in the game. Primarily you are shooting planes down in the game, but you do get a chance to also shoot some ground targets. Your throttle lever does work a little bit differently in this game in that you do have a low and high, but you also have an individual turbo button to turn on your afterburners. This actually is omitted if you're playing in the game on easy mode, and it handles all that aspect of the game automatically for you. A pretty cool feature in the game is that your plane can take a little bit of damage before getting shot down, and that is shown both in the cockpit and the exterior of the vehicle. The new Sega Ages mode in this game I actually found a lot of fun. While it is still timed like the original mode, you do get a lot more enemies on the screen, and it makes the game a little bit more fast-paced and exciting in my opinion. Not to mention, they did add some music if you're playing the game in this mode, which does help, I think, in the presentation of the game, especially when you're playing this game at home. Like a lot of the Sega Ages titles we've seen in the past, M2 did implement a lot of display ratio settings like dot by dot, fit, full screen, and even a vintage tube setting, which is pretty neat. These can additionally be used with various filter effects such as scanline, smoothing, or scanline and smoothing if you choose. But I personally prefer not to use any of the filter settings, as it just kind of gives it a more authentic look. Things like the scanline settings just are a little too dark in my opinion, and smoothing has never really been my thing. Probably one of the coolest display settings in the game though is the moving seat setting, which mimics the movement of the G-Loc full motion arcade unit. You have a view inside of what the machine looked like, and as you turn, the screen does turn with you, so you really get that sense of what it felt like to play in the arcade game. If you're not into the movement, there is an alternate stationary cockpit view as well, but I personally prefer the moving one. When playing in either of these modes though, I really do recommend a larger screen, primarily because the in-game screen is shrunk a little bit to accommodate for the extra detail of the cockpit in the game. Now Sega and M2 could have released G-Loc as a strict arcade port. However, the extra polish they added to this game between the arcade cabinet movement simulation and the Sega Ages mode really give this game more value. And at the $7.99 price tag, it really is an easy recommendation. Entries like this are exactly what I hope to see Sega continue to bring to this Sega Ages line. Not arcade accurate or unported titles are exactly what I think Sega diehard fans are looking for. More titles like G-Loc and the recently released Virtua Racing are perfect ways to expand this line of games. I personally would like to see an arcade accurate port of the original Virtua Fighter or even Scud Racer. So I'm really hoping that Sega continues this trend. I'm Lance, and I'll see you guys next time.